How did you handle telling the kids about the reasons for your divorce? Before we begin, please consider checking out my other channel. Link in the description. My 2 young children under 8 are not satisfied in the least about why we're not together. They didn't see fighting and they didn't sense distance. They saw love and laughter and a tight bond between us and them until it abruptly ended. Did you communicate to your children that he or she cheated and explain age appropriately what occurred? Did you vow to refrain from damaging the relationship of your soul with your kids and let them do it on their own? How did it work out? Do you wish you did anything differently? Edit: I'm not saying I want to tell my children their mother cheated. I'm curious about your decisions, experiences and advice. Update: you sent my parents a gift and card. Ida. We have 2 children together, and I'm still on good terms with her family after half of my life, 16 years of being an extended family. No one from my family speaks to her, except my mom, who does the bare minimum to be on good terms for the kids. I sent a gift from myself and my 2 girls to her parents. Her sister still sends family pics at the holidays to me. We're on good terms. They do not like what their daughter sister did. In the card, my 2 girls signed their names and wrote a note. I also wrote something. Apparently my spew also sent a card and gift, and signed it for them. Her writing, her wording. The issue I have is that I didn't betray their daughter, blow up the family, lie and deceive, and never own up to it. I didn't act that way and then try to slither back in by sending gifts and act like nothing happened. She does the same on social media, posting pictures and drugstore inspirational quotes, and frankly that's her prerogative. Do whatever you want in your own space, but I feel she crossed a boundary of normal, healthy human interaction. She acts like she hasn't changed everyone's life around her in a selfish, depraved way. I feel like reaching out and ripping her apart, which I've never really done thus far. Any advices? Update: infidelity seen on TV. My 6-year-old's reaction. My 6 and 8-year-old girls do not know about their mother's multiple infidelities, so it was funny to watch a scene unfold on TV where a woman was carrying out an affair and gauge my youngest's reaction. It was the jail scene from Malcolm in the Middle, where Francis watches the woman, AP and husband like a dramatic soap opera in which he's very interested. My youngest was curious why he was so surprised at what they were doing, and I explained that she was married, but that is not her husband. As an aside, they call my parents Nana and Dibby. My oldest couldn't say Grampy, and because he hated it, Dibby stuck. She thought for a few minutes and said, "What if Nana did that to Dibby? I bet you would want to punch him." I smiled, and it was cute of her to juxtapose the idea into her own life, but I quickly realized that I have some very tough days ahead when I explained to them what happened. Update: Narcissism 101 Infidelity, my story. I want to talk to some of you folks who can't bear the thought of their ex being with someone else, enjoying their life together while you're home and lonely and picking up the pieces. I have dreaded this day for a couple of years now, and here we are. Let me point out a few things and make some associations that may be helpful. First, a little backstory for context. We were together for 16 years. We met in our last year of college and were pretty inseparable throughout the duration of our relationship. Eventually, with moves that led us on adventures in a couple of different states in the US, we landed in a spot to raise our 2 children and settle in somewhat. I discovered her infidelity in late 2017, but it was only the beginning of the nightmare. To that point, I had no reason to mistrust her or figure my world was about to melt down around me. Fast forward to late 2018 and I now know the truth, thanks to his wife. She left, we sold the house and broke it to our poor, shell-shocked, young children. We have been separate ever since. No therapy. No talk of reconciliation. Nothing. In March of this year the final decree was accepted. She posted a photo last week. The guy who took the picture is the person she left me for, though that's not her reality. She has blamed me and taken every care to create and sustain this narrative. She dumped friends who loved her, left behind any trace of me, lied about and manipulated the story, and started fresh. Her new circle doesn't question her. She's finally happy, after all. He is still married, though they're separated. He's cheating on his 3rd wife with my ex. He doesn't have a job as he's with the National Guard Reserves for 1 weekend a month, and spends time sleeping on the ground, picking marijuana buds on a farm in the Northwest, along with other odd jobs. He is attracted to women who make good money, I'm told. He has also been ducking at least 3 other women while telling my wife what she needs to hear to sink the hook over these past several years. A few things stand out to me with this picture. Number 1, he posted this particular image to his private Instagram page, so they're still hiding the relationship. A mutual friend forwarded it to me. It's a petty move to give her a little something to show he's all in, but her face isn't even visible. Isn't that interesting? Who professes love without showing the person's face? She has worked hard to ensure that she looks clean in all this, so their deceit and willingness to lie and manipulate seemingly knows no bounds. Second, the caption, someone is finally telling her she's unique and special. This is Narcissism 101, page 1, line 1. These sad, misguided, damaged specimens are missing something deep inside. Where there should be deep, secure attachment with people they love, there's often an emptiness. This emptiness was often opened by a wound earlier in life, and there are many causes. It becomes a defense mechanism of the ego that sabotages and destroys, sometimes against their better judgment even. They can't possibly exist in a normal, reciprocal relationship where one often must sacrifice their own wants and needs to be successful. I watched this breakdown of sabotage and destruction happen in slow motion in hindsight. She struggled. She cried out for help, but couldn't communicate because it would be too damaging to her psyche. It would require bitter and brutal honesty, and she wasn't capable. I could only stand by and watch, confused and alone. I didn't recognize the situation for what it was. This condition is not visible to the untrained eye. I simply didn't have the tools in my tool belt. This type of exchange between narcissists is the manner by which their ego is fed, their pleasure centers fueled. Psychologists call this emotional currency narcissistic supply. Where most of us form deep, secure attachments with people in our lives, they simply don't. Her validation from these shallow relationships and the attention she receives from men communicates to her that she's unique and special. She is good enough in that moment. Never change, babe. I can see the back of my head, my eyes are rolling so hard. I was with that girl for a long time. I know her better than anyone else in this world and can say without pause that she felt loved and safe and secure and special in our relationship for a long time. It's simply not enough, not forever. My personality is strong because I'm secure in who I am and I am confident as a person. This was attractive to her, and she doesn't have a personality of her own, so she became me in a sense. These factors created a very stable version of her, but it's never a fix. Never. As soon as I wavered, working from home, I took my foot off the pedal and became complacent, a regret of mine, mind you. The die were cast and the end was nigh. So there it is, the image I'd been dreading. What now? It was cathartic to see it, really. I'd never experienced a feeling similar to it previously. I didn't really feel much, and that was strange. She has created a narrative that shields her psyche from the guilt-shame with which she deals on a daily basis, even outside her sabotage of our relationship or prior to knowing me. She is severely insecure and does not love herself. She's chosen her path, and I see it for what it is, although this deep cut will likely never completely heal. That's okay. I can't control any of that. I can control my reaction. I can control my motivation going forward. I can control my routine consistency and mindfulness for my children. I have created an environment for them that feels like home. I can control me. This is an empowering realization. Their relationship is what it is, and likely doomed just as mine was. I found out that she cheated on me before we were even married, when things were still amazingly new and fun and invigorating. No relationship can sustain with that kind of dishonesty. What about a relationship literally built on lies and deceit? Let them go. Recognize the signs in new people you meet. Learn about narcissism and codependent relationships. Do not let them win. Choose to live freely and love without regret. Just don't make the same mistakes you did the first time. Update: strange place, strange scenario with cheating XW. I guess she moved at some point because the place in which she had me meet her was unfamiliar to me. It's clearly an apartment complex, but a sizable upgrade from her initial setup. Large, sprawling windows, nice lighting, dark wood, and nice furnishings adorned the space. It felt open and alive, and it had 2 levels in a rectangular shape. I'll admit I was impressed. Why am I even here? I think to myself. It's been 2 years of consistent gray rock from me, despite her trying to be friends, except when it came to our kids. It had been almost 4 years of turmoil for our family altogether. Granted, we'd spoken more lately because of my eldest being sick and the symptoms mimicking some of hers. I moved some of the stuff that she had asked me to, and I couldn't help but notice that she seemed different. It's a stark contrast, as she's traditionally anxious. She seems calm and collected. Her movements are calculated and easy. Her tone and voice are slow and even a little seductive. Who is this person? Later, the kids are in bed and I'm getting ready to leave after moving the last items, and I notice her AP shoes on the floor near her coffee table. It doesn't bother me much, but I note that they must still be together. Regardless, there's that small pang of an old wound briefly flaring up. I don't even remember agreeing to do this. Why do I have all these feelings? Before I leave, she asks me to sit down with her outside on her patio love seat. We sit in silence for a bit, both looking off into the distance, seemingly absorbed in this strange moment. Her hand suddenly comes to rest on my leg. I look down to verify and follow her slender, bare arm up to her face, smiling, easy and comfortable. She looks how I remember her early in our relationship. The stress, wrinkles, and worries that she wore for the last few years are nearly gone. She looks beautiful and confident, with a light in her eyes I haven't seen for a long time. I look back down at her hand and reach for it with my own. I pick it up and place it on her lap. I stand up and say, "No," shaking my head, and I walk away. It was a dream. 2 years later and I'm still dreaming about this girl in such exquisite detail. I don't even want her back. If I'm honest, I do miss our family being together regularly. Setbacks are par for the course, I realize, but man, do they hurt sometimes. Stay strong, friends. Update, for those who say, "How can I love again?" Do not be dismayed by the brokenness in the world. All things break and all things can be mended. Not with time, as they say, but with intention. So go, love intentionally, extravagantly, unconditionally. The broken world waits in darkness for the light that is you. L.R. Nost. I agree with a few parts of this. Time does heal wounds, but only so far as the stages of grief will carry. After that, it's up to you. Don't let them win. Love again, but give your love to someone deserving. Update, my children have been introduced to the AP after 7 years. Any advice? Last weekend, after almost 2 years of separation and then divorce, my ex-wife introduced my 2 little girls, aged 8 and 10, to her AP. They've known each other now for 7 years and he's just now meeting them. Worse things are surely on the horizon. I won't lie, for as far as I've come, it hurt a lot and makes me really angry. He cheated on his 3rd wife with my ex, and cheats on her currently as well, although she doesn't know. He lives in a trailer when he's not with her, has no employment except odd jobs, and 1 weekend a month he reports to some military base because he's Reserve National Guard, and has no money, motivation or relationship with his own kids. It's pretty mind-boggling regardless, and especially if you knew us as a couple. I'm pretty much the complete opposite of him in every conceivable way. Today they're at Six Flags so my ex can indoctrinate my children with how fun their new life is going to be as a new family. I know this is a long game I have to play, a waiting game. The fallout will likely be fairly large when their relationship eventually ends. Until then, my plan is to not worry about it too much, but to listen if there's anything my babies want to share with me. Anyone who has done this part with the kids ex-AP, any advice on how to handle with your little ones? Anecdotes? Tips, tricks? Did you reveal your WS's indiscretions to your children? Update, AP impersonated my ex regarding a decision for my children. My ex-wife is reaching new lows in our journey of trying to co-parent together. She tested positive for COVID, so I had our children for the week as she was very sick, fever, headaches, body aches, coughing, breathing issues, etc. Her symptoms began on a Thursday. Fast forward to the end of the following week and it was her turn to pick them up on Friday. I asked if she was negative, as our oldest never showed symptoms and tested negative each time. I'm just thinking that's the most responsible course, not knowing who has what strain, etc., but she went radio silent. For context, her AP, who is now around a lot more and my children know him, stormed the Capitol, lives in a politically charged mental state seemingly at all times, and embodies this trashy and unfortunate world of identity politics. My ex has no personality of her own, so she just sort of becomes a copy of whoever she's with, and has fallen in with whatever he thinks about anything. Anyway, back to the text and her radio silence. A bit later that evening I got a text that was immediately recognizable as someone other than her. There was an ampersand, weird spacing, incorrect usage of phrases she'd never use, the word acquiesce, and other tells very obviously not written by my ex. He used I and referenced our children as though it was her typing the message. His point was that the sister could have been getting her sick all week and then at my ex's contagious 10-day period was over, which wasn't even true. My first reaction was to call them out, and I said that if I ever caught someone hiding behind her texts again there would be repercussions. He has zero to say about what we do with our children, regardless of the point he was making. Anyone else dealt with craziness like this? In TX I'm not even sure I have repercussions aside from consulting my lawyer, although I never reported his home wrecking to the military. There's maybe that still. Any advice is appreciated. Redditors' reactions. Redditor 1, you should insist that your ex-wife communicate with you solely through a court-approved co-parenting app. Content can't be deleted and is admissible in court. Why haven't you reported him to the military yet? Op answer, that's exactly what I'm looking for. Excellent idea. Thank you so much. As to not reporting, it was a gamble. It's a long story, but the short of it is this: according to his ex, he wasn't the type to get serious with a mother of 2 young children. He was in this likely for the thrill, the illicit nature, the hiding, etc. He lived in another state, so he came and went as he pleased, having time with her and then cheating on her elsewhere. At the time his ex could still see what he was up to. Then he moved nearby and lives in a trailer when he's not there. Does odd jobs because he has no real job prospects. My gamble was that if I stayed quiet he'd lose interest when things became serious and go away. I underestimated my ex and how much effort she'd put into keeping him around. Redditor 2, use a child custody app. It may cost a little money, but communications can't be deleted and it holds up in court. Block everywhere else. Tell her you have to do this since she is unable to communicate via text anymore without being impersonated. Redditor 3, time for you to take care of business. Report the AP to his command, be forceful, and give a complete description of his behavior. Keep your kids until she has a negative test. Communicate with her only through a parenting app. Stop being Mr. Nice Guy. You see what that gets you. Redditor follow-up, while I agree with most of this, he can't simply keep the kids until she provides a negative test. People can test positive for months and courts have already made it clear that COVID is not a reason to deny parenting time. Redditor 4, tell him to put her on FaceTime, Zoom, Skype, etc. so that you can speak directly. Address the text to him. Redditor 5, this happened, but to my daughter. She would think she was texting with her dad, and she expected that the things said would stay between her dad and herself. Instead, he would read them to his girlfriend, now wife, and she would get mad and take his phone and start responding. My child is way smarter than both of them and she could pinpoint the exact moments that the GF took over. We started making a game of it. Finally, when my kid was text fighting with her dad, she got a phone call. I happened to be there with her. It was the GF. She started to tell my child off over the phone. I listened for a bit, and when my rage boiled over, I snatched the phone and went off on her. I told her that she was not the parent and that she was to never contact my child again. She was stammering and eating her words. Then I told her father that when his child is texting him, it needs to stay that way. Redditor 6, keep detailed records of this and contact a CPS agent. Texas CPS is actually pretty damn good. One phone call and an unannounced visit to my STBXW at the time and I was awarded full custody of my daughter. Who knows what kind of asset this guy is into? And the whole storming the Capitol thing. Depending on where he was and what he did, that's potentially criminal. You don't want your kids around this guy. Gather the evidence and present it to the authorities. Get a restraining order against him for your kids. Talk to a lawyer immediately. Op answer: what were the grounds for taking the children away from your ex at the time? My lawyer told me it's quite the process and very difficult. Redditor 7, adultery can be a bootable thing in the military if you are cheating on your spouse. Keeps many women from saying anything about it, or domestic violence, because they're instantly homeless and income-less when husband is booted. But I don't know what if anything is done if they're the homewrecker. Op answer: monetary punishment, suspension, even discharge. It's not taken lightly, and with the guidance of a relative in the army, I know his CO and his CO's superior as well. Redditor 8, if you have photos or proof that he stormed the Capitol, send them to your local FBI office as well as the CO. Op answer: at the time the arrest began, his whole social media was either deleted or tattoos and identifiable marks were covered up or deleted. Now it's all political memes. Redditor 9, I would get my kids away from this guy. He's not trustworthy. Especially if you have daughters. Too many single moms let their judgment get clouded, and things can happen right up under their nose when girls turn a certain age. This man is clearly a narcissist, and with people like that, there is no telling what he's capable of or what's going through his head. Op answer: agreed. Up to this point I was just watching and waiting. My children talk to me a lot, and I have no doubt they'd speak up if something was going on.